looks like the rain's in full force today again. And with that in mind, what's going on today? I guess everyone or most people probably heard something happened in Korea, huh? Apparently there was some kind of Halloween event and there was so much people crowded together, they started packing amongst one another. Literally, I guess people often say breathing down your neck. That's how close, I guess, a lot of people were. And because of this incident, apparently a lot of people got injured and all that. People had cardiac arrest. What kind of tragic incident is this, huh? Now, in reading a lot of the stories, they talk about things like Stampede, where the initial thought a person like myself would have is people, I guess, got trampled over, but apparently there's more to it because, again, there were a lot of people, for example, that suffered for things like cardiac arrest. And it says here, crowd collapses and crushes. Crowd collapses and crushes are catastrophic incidents that can occur when a body of people becomes dangerously overcrowded. And it says it can become so densely packed that individuals are crushed and asphyxiated. At this density, a crowd can start to act like fluid, sweeping individuals around without their volition. That would kind of make sense, I suppose, in terms of some people having things like the cardiac arrest per se. I would imagine the anxiety as well, like with the stress of some people, that'll bring up things like their heart rate if they can't breathe. But yeah, that's a really tragic incident. Because again, like there, it's not just getting, quote, crushed, it's eventually a lot of people are getting deprived of things like oxygen. This didn't have to happen, I guess, if it was better prepared. But unfortunately, I guess just due to the fact that it was an event, on top of the factor that it was been a while since people have been able to, I guess, go, quote, freely and all that. You can only live and learn, unfortunately. And the other story I read today sounded like a follow-up I read before. Essentially, there were some, I guess, officials using a drone to, quote, spy on some residents because they thought they were breaking, I guess, zoning laws and all that. Now, I believe it was settled, but afterwards they pursued it still and they're arguing, hey, you illegally used the drone to, quote, I guess, spy on them. That's what you want to say. But then someone said afterwards, well, they can do it even though they argue you need like a warrant. This one says, Michigan court allows town to use drones to snoop without warrants. One couple is suing. The Institute for Justice argues evidence from warrantless searches can't be used for zoning enforcement. Todd and Heather Maxon have been fighting the zoning enforcement office for Long Lake Township for more than a decade over the couple storing several vehicles on their property. The township accused them of storing junk and brought a code enforcement suit against them in 2007. The Maxons fought back and the township eventually agreed to drop the case as part of a settlement as long as the status quo was maintained. But according to court documents from the State of Michigan Court of Appeals, neighbors complained that the Maxons has expanded the number of vehicles they were storing on their property. Long Lake Township investigated again. The township was unable to determine any zoning violations from the ground, so they hired a drone company multiple times between 2010 and 2018 to survey the Maxons' property, flying overhead and taking photographs. Wow, that pretty much stretches a long time, 2010 to 2018? It says eventually, Long Lake Township determined that the Maxons had expanded the number of stored vehicles on the property and filed civil suit against the couple to attempt to force them to come into compliance. So there came the interesting part where they argue the evidence that they're using wasn't legally obtained, so it should be thrown out. But then it says here, that's when the Maxons' argument ran aground, at least for now. The appeals court ruled in September that because this was a civil lawsuit, the exclusionary rule did not necessarily apply. The U.S. Supreme Court has repeatedly rejected the use of the exclusionary rule in civil cases. Chief Judge Elizabeth Gleicher wrote in the ruling, the United States Supreme Court has explained that the purpose of the exclusionary rule is twofold: to deter police misconduct and to provide a remedy where no other remedy is available. When analyzed under the federal or Michigan Constitution, suppression of the drone evidence does not serve these goals, and so the evidence can be used in a civil proceeding. That's kind of interesting. So are people okay with that, for example? So this says here, I guess, officials could use it to gather information and evidence, so would you agree with that? Okay, definitely no flying today. Want to test out for the archive. Alright, see you guys later.